Sanders on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to first thank our leader for bringing this history lesson that we need so much this day and age. Of course, I will take another moment to explain to my beloved colleague from his part of Queens that, that I represent the talented 10th senatorial district, so I won't take him that way. But I must admit, Madam Leader, I was scared when I heard Senator Bailey speak. I thought he was condemning my basketball skills. It is true that if you don't play, you kind of lose it. So I thought he was condemning, but he brought me back on, and there's a role for us all, even for some of us who have to be the water boy. So there's a role for us all. But I want to tell you about the unfinished business of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the unfinished business. Yes, he went to the mountaintop. Yes, he did all of these incredible things. But I would suggest to you that those are not the things that got him killed. Those were things that created a certain amount of tension, a certain amount of friends or enemies. But what got him killed was, I would suggest to you, two different things. The first is the Poor People's Campaign, the Poor People's Campaign, when he started speaking on this. And the second, of course, was his position on the Vietnam War. Well, the Vietnam War. Now, the Poor People's Campaign, for those who don't remember it, had to do with many different things, but you could look at 4 different things on it. You would look at his position on health, how he felt that there should be a universal system of health care so people would not have to face impoverishment or just dying. Those would not be the stark choices. He spoke of how we should have full employment, a full employment society, a place where everyone who wanted a job and was willing to get out there had a worthy job for themselves. He also spoke of human dignity, of how we had to figure out how to love one another, that we didn't have to, in one sense, like one another, but you had to figure out how to love one another, and especially for those who may be the immigrants, the outsiders, those who we don't really know, those who are currently being rounded up even as we speak and iced away somewhere in other places. He also spoke of labor rights, the rights and the dignity of humans to form unions of labor. We should study those things. Those things are under attack even as we speak. But he also spoke of endless wars, endless wars. Now, this may sound familiar to many people, but he wasn't speaking of Venezuela, possibly Mexico, could be Canada, might be Greenland. Only God knows what we're going to do next week. He was speaking of his day, Vietnam. He was speaking of the Vietnamese War that seemed to be an endless war and a draining of the American economy. He spoke of how you can't fight two things. You can't have a war on poverty and, in one sense, a war on the poor. You'd have to figure out which one you wanted to win. And one, I would argue, is unwinnable. If you're having an endless war on the poor, it will never be ended, but you can win a war on poverty. As I conclude, and there are better speakers who come after me, I will remind you that the Reverend Doctor certainly could be our point guard and should be, and all of us should pay attention to that. But he thought of himself as a drum major, just as a drum major. Not as a general, not as a big guy with a banner in his hand, just as a drum major. And to remind you, a drum major has 4 functions. The first function of a drum major, of course, is to call people to battle. There is a war. Let us fight it. All those who want to win come on this side. All those who don't want us to win go on the other side. A drum major. The second function of a drum major is that they motivate. Going to war is often a scary process, whether you are fighting in some unknown land or you are fighting right at the end of your block or your neighbors. Going to war, and hopefully the war will be of the mind, something that we can win in a peaceful fashion. Going to war can be a scary thing, and a drum major calls people and motivates people. A drum major also rallies the troops. Sometimes when you're out there, and I would suggest that this is such a time, you may become battle weary. You've gone through too much. The battles never seem to stop. There's always something. Next week is it Greenland or this one? There's always something coming at you. But a drum major rallies the troops. That steady beat, that comforting beat that says this is the way forward and here's where we're going. The last thing that a drum major does is, if need be, a drum major calls retreat. He tells you, okay, this is not the battle that we're going to win today. We're going to have to go back over this way. We're not going to just throw the weapons down and flee. We're going to go in an organized fashion and retreat. Now, I would suggest to you as I conclude that the drum major beat many different calls, but he never sounded our retreat. He never called for us to retreat on this field of battle. And I would suggest to you that now is a time more than any other in this winter in America where we will see who are the true American winter soldiers. Who are the people who believe in America for all of us, and not just some of us, not just a talented handful over here and the rest of us. Who are those who are strong enough, brave enough to say no when everybody seems to be saying yes? In season or out of season, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood for morality, for health, for dignity of people that would never know him. And I would suggest to you that we are not going to hear the call for retreat, because every time I hear him, I hear the call to move forward, the challenge to take the next hill, to get to that golden city on the hill that he spoke of, where all of us can be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sanders.